He grabbed her shoulders gently. Hey, you're alive. Whatever that was, we can fix it later. Right now you're safe. She stared at him as if he had spoken a forbidden phrase. For a moment, her face eased, not physically healed, but softened by something new. Maybe. And fear you saved me, she whispered, as if it were a crime. Well, yeah, that's what we do. He smiled awkwardly. Humans, we step in, even when it's stupid. Her breath caught like she didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Then she reached forward, fingers shaking, and pressed her palm flat against the center of his chest. Her markings ignited. Silver light curled across her skin, flaring between her hand and his heart like a magnetic field. Liam tried to pull back, but she held him with surprising strength. She whispered something soft, rhythmic, ancient, and her voice resonated not in his ears, but in his bones. Panic rolled down his spine. Hey, what are you doing? I'm just trying to help. The light snapped inward, disappearing instantly, though he still felt something warm smoldering beneath his ribs. She collapsed against him, weak, still bleeding. Her voice was barely a breath. I have sworn a life bond. A what? A tie of survival. My life is now tied to yours. Until my debt is complete. You are my chosen one. Liam blinked twice because that sounded like the kind of problem that required paperwork, legal advice, and maybe several beers. Okay, wait. I didn't sign anything. You can't just bond to random people. I'm not even sure I can keep a houseplant alive. She didn't laugh. She looked terrified. It is ancient law, she whispered. I owe you my life. I belong to you now. No sentence in the universe had ever horrified Liam more. No. People don't belong to people. He shook his head so hard it hurt. You don't owe me anything. You don't even know me. Her eyes shimmered with emotion too complex for words. Fear, dignity, regret, and something deeper, something she fought to hide. My customs are not negotiable, she said softly, and neither is the bond. I will not burden you. Once I repay my life debt, the tie will dissolve. Until then, I stay. She spoke like someone preparing for punishment, not gratitude. Liam stared at her in the freezing wind, his jacket torn, his palms burnt, and his heart punching walls inside his ribs. He didn't know her species, her culture, her laws, or even her name, but he knew this look. A human would call it being alone in the world. I don't know what you've been through, he said quietly, but I don't need repayment. I just need you to stay alive. Something in her expression broke, something like disbelief fused with desperation. I don't understand humans, she whispered. Trust me, he sighed, steadying her on her feet. Neither do we. And somehow, through the freezing night, the wreckage behind them still smoldering, Liam felt the first flicker of something dangerously familiar. Connection. Not destiny. Not ownership. Just two lonely souls in a universe too big for comfort, standing within arm's reach. He hadn't meant to be anybody's savior that night. Liam was just a tired human mechanic driving home past the Ridge Highway, cursing the universe because his paycheck was late again and his heater had died in the middle of winter. He didn't see himself as heroic. He saw himself as cold, underpaid, and sincerely offended that the sandwich shop had run out of mustard. But fate tends to ignore personal schedules, and that was the exact moment the sky tore itself open. The explosion cracked the clouds like glass, a blinding fracture of violet fire streaking sideways across the dark horizon. Liam slammed the brakes so hard the seatbelt dug into his ribs. At first he thought it was a crashing plane until the object spun, groaned, and flared with propulsion bursts that hummed too smoothly to be human. It skidded across the frozen valley floor like a wounded metal beast before crumpling in a shower of silver fragments. He sat there for too long, hands glued to the wheel, heart sprinting. A normal man would have called emergency services, locked his doors, and thanked God he wasn't involved. But Liam had that special brand of human stupidity, the one aliens mistake for bravery. So he swore under his breath, grabbed the flashlight from his glove compartment, and tromped down the muddy slope toward the burning wreckage. The ship wasn't large. Sleek obsidian plating cracked like an eggshell. Strange symbols glowed weakly across a hull that looked almost organic. He had no idea what species built ships like this, but it definitely wasn't bowing. He coughed from the smoke, pulled his jacket over his face, and shouted into the twisted metal, "Hey, anyone alive in there?" Silence. Then movement. Something slammed against the escape hatch from the inside. Not mechanical, soft. Someone. Liam made a decision so fast his brain barely participated. He kicked aside debris, burned his palms on scorching steel, and wedged himself under the bent hatch door. His flashlight caught an outline, a slender figure with long limbs trying to crawl through a narrow gap. She wasn't human. That much was clear. Smooth silver markings flowed across her lavender skin like veins of liquid metal, and her hair glowed faintly, shifting between moonlit blue and ghost white. She was beautiful in a way. Liam didn't have vocabulary for and bleeding heavily. Her voice was weak, but melodic, like consonants made of bells. Please, don't let the fire reach the core. He didn't understand, but he understood urgency. He hauled her up, one arm around her waist, light, too light, like she was built for different gravity. She gasped in pain but didn't resist, clinging to his shoulder as they stumbled away from the ship. Liam didn't look back until they were halfway up the ridge, and then the ship detonated. The shockwave threw them both to the ground. Heat burned past their backs, and the sky lit up with white fire. Liam's ears rang, but he felt her tremble violently beside him. She tried to rise, panic sharp in her wide, luminous eyes. No, my bond, my lineage, my title. Liam didn't realize how insane the situation actually was until he brought her inside his house. His cabin wasn't designed for entertaining guests or alien royalty who triggered cosmic light shows when grateful. It was small, messy, and embarrassingly human. Laundry on the couch, pizza boxes forming geological layers on the coffee table, and a heater that buzzed like an elderly lawnmower. The alien girl stood just inside the doorway, dripping melted snow onto the rug, staring around as if she'd stepped into another reality. Not because of the clutter, but because she had never seen anything so alive. Lamps glowing in warm colors, blankets tossed casually over chairs, family photos pinned to a fridge with magnets advertising cheap car repair. A life that wasn't curated or ceremonial, just lived. She didn't know where to stand or whether she was allowed to breathe. "You're safe here," Liam said, locking the door behind them. "If you can sit or collapse, either is fine." She took 3 stiff steps and sat very carefully on the edge of the couch as if it might electrocute her. Her silver-marked skin was paler now, signs of blood loss stark against her glowing patterns. Liam grabbed the first aid kit from beneath the sink. She flinched when he opened it. "I won't hurt you," he assured. "It is not injury I fear," she murmured. "It is missteps. In your culture, I am already in violation. Sitting without permission, speaking without title, existing without right." He stared at her, incredulous. "Lady, you nearly died. You're allowed to sit on the couch." She blinked once, then twice, processing. "You speak as though survival grants privilege." "Yeah, that's kind of a human thing." She hesitated, then nodded once, as if trying to learn a rule. He gently cleaned the wound on her side. Her muscles tensed painfully under his touch, and he tried to be soft, careful. Alien or not, skin was skin, and pain was pain. "What's your name?" he asked. She swallowed before answering. "Arcia el Traban," bloodline of the 3rd sovereign house. He paused, midway through taping a bandage. "Wow, and I thought Liam Harper sounded generic. So I'm guessing the sovereign house thing is either really impressive or really stressful." Her lips curved just slightly, not quite a smile, but something neighboring one. "It means everyone would rather I die than fail." That sentence landed in the room like a dropped blade. Liam didn't respond right away. Sometimes reacting too quickly felt like pity, and pity was a poison. Instead, he took a slow breath. "Well, tough luck for them. You didn't die." She watched him like she was trying to decipher the secret of a different universe and failing. "You risked your life for me," she said. "Yet you were afraid." "Oh, absolutely terrified," he said instantly. "But humans don't need courage to do something stupid. We just need to care." She frowned. "Care for someone unknown, unrelated, irrelevant to your social advancement." "Yeah," he replied, taping the last bandage. "Humans are champions at irrational compassion." She sat quietly for a long minute. Then, in a voice like confession, she whispered, "I have never met a being who cared for me without benefit." Liam didn't know what to do with that without breaking something, so he resorted to the only magic he trusted, sincerity wrapped in humor. "Well, I did save you because I thought it would really impress the pizza delivery guy," he joked. "He's competitive." A breath escaped her, a soft sound, almost like a laugh, though she caught it instantly, eyes wide as if she'd accidentally broken protocol. "You don't have to hide that," he said gently. She looked away, like the feeling was embarrassing. "In my world, affection is weakness, emotion is threat, warmth is weapon. Laughing ruins political image. That sounds exhausting." "It is survival." He sat back, arms resting on his knees. "Maybe we survive differently." Her gaze met his, hesitant but curious. "Teach me." He didn't know how to teach compassion, but he could introduce comfort, so he pointed to the cabinet. "First lesson blankets." Her expression was priceless. "Blankie." He grabbed one plaid, soft, fluffy, and draped it loosely around her shoulders. She froze immediately, body rigid, eyes huge. "What is happening? Why does it feel like being held?" "Because it kind of is." She didn't breathe for 2 full seconds, then wrapped it tighter, as if afraid it might vanish. Her voice trembled. "This is forbidden warmth." "Here," Liam shrugged. "It's just a Tuesday." The heater rattled, the window frost glowed, and the alien girl wrapped in plaid sat on a couch too big for her, staring at him not with fear but with something else, something more dangerous than any ancient oath. "Trust. And maybe." If the universe was reckless hope before he could soften the moment with another joke. She leaned closer, fixated on him. "The life bond," she whispered. "Do you feel it?" He blinked. "I feel a lot of things right now, mostly confusion. Your heartbeat changed when I touched you, and now mine mirrors it." She placed her hand gently against her own chest. "If you fear, I fear. If you calm, I calm. If you reject me." She didn't dare finish the sentence. He swallowed. "What happens then?" "I die." Dead silence. The bond wasn't an oath of romance or servitude. It was a biological trap, a tether written into her genetics, maybe her culture binding her survival to his emotional stability. That's not a bond, Liam said. That's punishment disguised as loyalty. It is tradition, she said, but there was bitterness now slowly, painfully awakening. He stared at her bruised skin and shaky breath. Arxia, you're not going to die, because I'm not going to reject you. She trembled, not dramatically, not theatrically, just enough that he knew she had never heard that sentence before, not once. Why? She asked. Liam exhaled. Because nobody deserves to be loved only when they're useful. Arxia didn't cry. Her species might not even cry, but her glowing markings flickered like breaking glass. The blanket slipped from her shoulders because her hands shook too hard to hold it. Outside, wind battered the windows. Inside, two people sat in silence, shaped like the beginning of something neither language had words for. It wasn't ownership. It wasn't obligation. It wasn't salvation. It was simply two souls realizing they weren't alone anymore. The forest wasn't made for running in the dark. Roots clawed at their ankles. Branches slapped at their arms, and every breath burned like fire. Yet Liam held Arxia's hand and dragged them forward anyway. She moved fast, far faster than a human, but she matched his pace instead of abandoning him. Loyalty, fear, instinct, maybe all three drove her to stay beside him, no matter how much her body screamed to sprint. Behind them, the shuttle's floodlights carved brutal white arcs through the trees. Heavy metallic footsteps followed, too precise to be human. Assassins, elite ones, quiet, efficient, patient. Arxia whispered between ragged breaths. They won't stop. They never do. Good, Liam panted. I don't quit either. To her that was madness. To him, it was Tuesday. They reached a ridge overlooking a ravine. 30 meters of nothing but air and jagged stone waited below. Arxia froze. If we jump, we die. If we stay, we die. There was no easy answer, just two impossible ones. Liam looked down at the ravine, calculating fast, then noticed an old industrial flight cable running across the gap, rusted half, but still anchored. Hold on to me, he said. That is not a plan, it's the only one I've got. She didn't argue. She threw her arms around him, and he grabbed the cable and swung them into the void. The metal screamed under their combined weight. Arxia didn't scream. She buried her face against his neck like the world was ending, and maybe it was. Halfway across, the cable snapped. They plummeted, but the incline of the cliff slowed their fall just enough for survival. Barely. They rolled hard across rock and dirt until everything stopped spinning. Pain split Liam's shoulder like lightning. Arxia took a breath that sounded like a sob before still forcing herself into calm. They will come down after us, she whispered. Liam groaned and sat up. Good, that means they're predictable. Her markings dimmed in confusion. This is not how strategy works. It works fine if you're me. She stared at him, the absurdity and certainty in his words both terrifying and magnetic. Her instincts had been taught to kneel to strength, to power. And yet something inside her, something she had never allowed before, kneeled to kindness instead. Not to control, to safety, and threat closed in again. Voices from above translated through machinery, flat and sterile. Target located. Orders unchanged. Deliver body intact. Arxia swallowed hard. They will not risk killing me. But you... Yeah, I figured I wasn't on their do not kill list. She gripped his sleeve with shaking fingers. You should leave me. If I surrender, you live. Liam laughed. Truly laughed. Dark, reckless, stupid, human. You're new to humanity, he said, so let me teach you rule 1. We don't abandon people who need us. That is not logical, she whispered. I'm not logical. And yet, I do not want you to be. The assassins were descending now, methodical, coordinated. They would be there in less than a minute. He looked around, nothing but stone, debris, and an old mining conduit built into the cliff. A sealed access door with biometric lock. No way in, no time. Unless Arxia. Liam said, you're royalty, right? I am heir to the house that destroyed itself. Yeah, but royalty, do your people like building stuff with? I don't know. DNA locks. Her eyes widened. Every imperial structure is bound to the bloodline, so that door might open for you. No, she said. It will definitely open for me. That is the problem, they will track it. You mean they'll know we went inside? Yes, he grinned. Good, that means they'll chase us into a place we can use. You are terrifying. Thank you. They ran. Arxia slapped her palm against the scanner and the ancient door groaned open. They slid inside and slammed it shut behind them. The metal sealed with a heavy hydraulic lock, temporary but strong. Darkness swallowed them until emergency lights flickered on, revealing a forgotten subterranean transit hub, abandoned McGrail tracks, rusted carts, long-dead generators, a graveyard of industry. Arxia inhaled sharply. This leads to the deep tunnels. If we take the wrong path, we will be lost forever. That's fine, Liam said. If we take the right one, we'll be caught immediately. She stared at him, half horrified, half in awe. Why do humans choose chaos? He didn't answer. He just offered his hand. Without hesitation now, she took it. Every tunnel they passed hummed softly. The distant vibration of assassins cutting through the first door. Time shrinking. Choices collapsing. As they walked, Arxia spoke quietly. almost against her will. When I was a child, we were taught that emotions are liabilities. Love is servitude. Attachment is weakness. But then you pulled me from the wreckage, and when I swore the bond, you did not demand ownership. You offered freedom. I do not understand. You're not supposed to understand it, he said. You're supposed to live it. Her steps slowed. If I survive because you care for me, then I live as long as you do. And if something happens to me, Liam answered gently, we'll make damn sure it's from old age. She blinked rapidly, overwhelmed, but forced herself forward. Because survival demanded motion. The assassins breached the hub a moment later. Their footsteps echoed like thunder through the tunnels. Arcia's voice trembled. There are too many. Liam squeezed her hand. We're not finished yet. She stared at him, at the raw certainty in his tone, at the stupid, beautiful defiance. Her markings flared bright enough to illuminate the tunnel around them. Not ritual, not programming. Choice. She stepped closer, her forehead resting briefly against his shoulder. Not for protection, but for strength. Then we run together always. They sprinted into the maze of tunnels just as the assassin spotted them. Weapons charging, and something changed in Arcia's eyes. Fear, yes, but also fury. Not at the enemies chasing her. At the life that demanded she run forever. For the first time in her life, she wasn't running to survive. She was running toward a future. With him. The deeper they went, the louder the assassins grew. The deeper they went, the closer they became, united not by biology but by choice, human chaos and alien royalty, to forces the galaxy never meant to meet, but they had, and nothing would be the same. The universe didn't wait for them to discuss their relationship or the ethics of ancient telepathic love vows. It simply decided to throw another disaster their way. The Karth Dominion tracked the wreckage signal, arriving in orbit with a warship the size of a small moon. Vela sensed it first, shivering in the middle of breakfast because even telepathic soulborn princesses could be startled by burnt toast. Eli tried to pretend he wasn't terrified, mostly because she looked at him like terror was optional when he was around. It made him want to live up to a standard his species had no right to claim. The Dominion demanded her surrender, threatened planetary sterilization, and issued 6 different death warrants for Eli before even confirming his legal identity. Galactic bureaucracy worked fast when emotions were involved. Apparently the bond ritual she performed made him, on formal record, her chosen mate guardian. Eli stared at that clause on the intercepted transmission while she tried not to look him in the eyes. He wasn't sure which was worse, being targeted for death, or feeling his chest tighten every time she avoided him. The human survival instinct, that legendary mix of fear and reckless improvisation, kicked in. Eli radioed the Dominion captain and requested a private negotiation. Vela looked at him with horror, like he'd offered to wrestle a black hole. But the Dominion accepted immediately, obviously convinced a lone human would be easy to intimidate. And maybe he would have been if not for the chaotic superpower of humanity, a complete unwillingness to follow the script that fear demanded. The negotiation field shimmered to life, just outside the settlement ruins, forming a glowing circle of artificial atmosphere. The Dominion captain arrived in ceremonial armor that probably weighed more than Eli. Eli brought a folding lawn chair to mismatched travel mugs and exactly 0 dignity. The captain tried to begin with legal threats, but Eli interrupted by handing him a mug. The captain froze, speechless, because no one had ever offered him coffee during a diplomatic ultimatum. Eli explained calmly that he didn't want to fight. He didn't want to steal a princess, didn't want to start a war. He just didn't want her to die. And he didn't want her to go back to a life where affection was political currency and comfort was rationed like oxygen. He didn't say the word love. It wasn't necessary. Even the Dominion captain could hear it when Vela arrived. The captain spoke to her with a strange mix of accusation and disbelief, demanding to know why she'd gone this far for a human. She didn't flinch, but she did glance at Eli in a way that cracked her ancient royal composure. It wasn't dramatic or poetic, just a simple look that said, "I'm afraid I care too much." She told the captain she was exactly where she wanted to be. Then she added that if Eli had wanted power, he would have claimed it by now. If he had wanted her crown, he could have taken it when she was weak. If humans were dangerous, it was only because they loved too fiercely to abandon someone they had chosen. The captain stared between them and muttered something diplomatic like disastrously sentimental, but interstellar politics moved on leverage, and bonds older than empires were not easily broken. If the Dominion killed Eli, Vela's lineage would ignite a civil war. If they killed Vela, Eli's kind, unpredictable, stubborn, immune to fear, might respond with something even more catastrophic, moral outrage. Suddenly, peace was the logical answer. Officially, the captain declared the ancient bond valid and permitted Vela to remain on the planet with her human guardian. Unofficially, he whispered to Eli that he had no idea what the girl saw in him. But if she was happy, fine, just don't get the rest of humanity involved. Eli grinned and promised nothing. The warship departed, leaving silence and Vela blinking through tears she didn't want him to see. She tried to thank him formally, using royal syntax and ceremonial posture, but he stepped forward and ruined the moment with one of those painfully human things, awkward honesty. He told her he didn't rescue her because he was brave or noble or worthy. He just couldn't stand the idea of her being alone again. The words landed like a beam strike, and she almost laughed because only a human would confess devotion by insulting himself first. They walked back to the shelter together, pretending normalcy had returned. It hadn't. Every step vibrated with unspoken meaning. She teased him about negotiating with a warlord using household kitchen equipment. He reminded her she'd sworn an ancient Soulbond ritual without reading the instructions first. They were joking, but every joke bent toward something deeper, something dangerous, not because it hurt, but because it might heal. Later that night, Vela sat beside him while the generator hummed and the desert sky glowed with too many stars. She asked whether humans really believed in fate. Eli said no. Humans believed in trying, failing, trying again, and hoping the universe didn't laugh too hard. She leaned her head against his shoulder, which startled them both, and whispered that if that was what humanity meant, she wanted to learn it. Eli didn't answer at first, because her warmth and uncertainty and hope felt too real to rush. When he finally spoke, he told her he wouldn't teach her to be human. He would just stay beside her while she figured out who she wanted to become. The ancient bond hadn't been fulfilled or consummated or completed. It was simply beginning, messy, hilarious, terrifying. And maybe that was the real HFY miracle. Humanity didn't conquer the galaxy with weapons or logic, but with stubborn affection and a willingness to leap before understanding the height. Vela hadn't chosen Eli because he was strong or wise or legendary. She chose him because he saw her as someone worth saving even when she couldn't prove it. When she sighed and closed her eyes, safe in the arms of the boy who'd turned galactic politics upside down by caring too loudly, he held her like she was something fragile and fierce at the same time. And maybe she was. Maybe he was too. But for the first time, neither of them was alone in the wreckage. The galaxy expected war, vengeance, or empire. What it got instead was something far more dangerous, a boy and a girl, who had every reason to fear each other and chose trust anyway. And if love wasn't the right word yet, it didn't matter. Humanity never needed permission to feel first and figure it out later. The stars would deal with the consequences soon enough.